Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to go over some finishing touches you can do to make your vessel look a little bit nicer. So my vessel here, it's been built. The coils are all smooth, but you can see it's not perfectly smooth. I've got my lip. So now I'm going to show you a few things you can do to take it to the next level to get it even more smooth and nicer looking and more of a finished piece. So one thing, we've been working with these in class, the credit card. You can take that and really just kind of go along the entire piece, and you can kind of flex it with the piece. And this is when it's in a little bit drier of a state, and you can get a real nice smoothness going with that. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is, I call this trimming, and you'll notice most of you on your pots, and mine is actually like this a little too, there's little bumps. Even though I smooth it together, it's still a little bumpy from the coils. So remember, we talked about in the beginning how your coils should be a little bit thicker, like the thickness of a finger about. Well, that's when this is going to help, because since my pot's a little thicker, I can take this. It's actually called a pear tool, and you can trim like this. So I'm going along those lines, and you can go up and down. Let's see if I can get that in there. You can go like this, up and down. You can go side to side, wherever some of those bumps are where the coils stick out. And you can do that everywhere throughout the whole pot. So you're just kind of trimming that surface. It does have to be in more of a leather hard state, slightly drier state to do that, or else you're going to be kind of gouging into the clay. The other thing about this is you can take a lot of those bumps off and it works really well. However, if your pot is thin, or if you do it too much, what's going to happen is you're going to put a hole in it or make it really thin and really weak. So you do have to be aware when you do this step of the thickness of it, and not going too far, because if you make a hole in it, you can repair it usually, but it's tough. So that's something to really be careful of. But that really does get it an extra layer of smoothness. So once you go and you kind of trim everything, you can, if you want, you can go back again and smooth it up some more. But you can sort of do these techniques in any order, and you find what works best for you. But those are things you can do to give it a finished, very smooth surface quality. There's one more thing you can do with smoothing that is really nice. It's called burnishing. And once again, it should be almost more in a leather hard state when you do this. And what you're going to do is take the back of a spoon and just rub the clay. And usually you're going in like circular motions, back and forth. Maria Martinez does this in the video that we watch. So we're just going back and forth, and what you'll notice is it gets extremely smooth. When it's leather hard or starting to dry, it even starts to get shiny. It's a really nice finished texture. So that's a nice thing you can also do. You don't have to do this. This is something I would consider kind of extending, or if you're a little bit ahead of the class, go ahead and burnish, and it's just going to give it that nice extra smooth texture. So another thing we want to talk about is cleaning up the lip and the foot. So here's my lip. You can see I can see a coil in the inside. It's a little bumpy. It just looks like I was building with coils and I just stopped, which is fine. That's what I did. So now what I'm going to do is make that lip look like a little bit nicer, finished quality lip. So for one thing, I can just sort of take my finger and smooth those top few coils that are on the inside so I can't see those. The finger works nicely for that. Then I'm going to take my trimming tool, the loop tool that we've been using, and I'm just going to kind of skim around the top. You know, if you find the knife works better for that, that's fine too. But I'm just giving it a nice finished, straight quality. And no matter how steady you are or careful you are, nobody's is going to be perfectly straight. That's not my expectation. The expectation is that you do a little to clean it up and make it look nicer. And once again, it has to be in a slightly drier clay state before you do this. When it's real wet, it's not going to do this real well. But anyway, Then I also might want to kind of just thin the lip a little bit, so I'm kind of going around the inside like this, so it's not quite as wide. And just kind of clean it up. There's no perfect way that the lip should be, but it should look like you put a little bit of attention into giving it a finished look. And some of the examples that you see in the classroom are really good examples of what a finished one can look like. So I've just started to clean that up, give it kind of a straighter, nicer, more finished quality. And the other thing we want to think about is the bottom or the foot. And a lot of times when you're working, you're kind of going like this and the foot gets all smushy, or it's a little thicker or whatever. We want it to look like you put some time into finishing up that foot and making it look like a finished, thought out part of the pot. So one thing that I like to do is just take the pear tool again and just kind of give it that edge, you know, so I'm going along the edge here, maybe here, and just skim along so that it has an actual edge. It's not like rounded, because that doesn't really make a good pot if it's rounded on the bottom and it can tip. So I'm going to clean that up so it's a nice kind of hard edge here. And then another thing you can do for the foot is carve it out a little bit. And once again, some of the different things we have in the classroom, some of the examples look really nice as far as a finished foot. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to take my tool and draw a circle and leave about a 1/2 inch on the side. And then I'm going to carefully take my trimming tool and just carve in and carve out a little recessed area where that kind of sits up off the surface. Now, why do you do this? It's just, once again, it's just kind of a finishing touch, a finishing detail. Not every pot necessarily needs that. It could have a really nice flat foot that you put time into just smoothing it, but you don't want to leave it like you just made it out of the pinch pot and forgot about it. So I'm just trimming that out. Mine isn't very clean right now because I'm trying not to make this video too long, but once again, just look at some of the examples you see in the classroom. All these things, and if you're adding a little texture, which you'll talk about, are things that can take your pot to the next levels, that extending higher grade we think about, or just making it look more finished. So those are just a few things you can do. One last thing, make sure at this point it's labeled with your name on the bottom, very clearly written, so that they can be graded and also fired if you choose to get your coil vessel fired. Thanks for listening. Enjoy those finishing touches on your coil vessel.